Good afternoon, Niner faithful. It is Friday. Usually we'd have this show right after my live stream with Grant Cohn, but Grant was on his way to Chicago, where I am sure he is living it up, eating some delicious food, because God knows if you go to Chicago, you better plan a couple of fantastic meals in there. If I'm there, I'm getting myself some deep dish pizza, probably a couple of times, because that's what's needed. You got to feast when you're there to support the Niners. When you are faithful on location, you got to show out. I'm trying to show out this afternoon. I had to put on something fresh, something new to try and revive the 49ers' hopes for the season. And the best thing that I could do was to put on the original chalk line jacket. It is classic. It is 80s vibes, and it carries that 80s je ne sais quoi. It is that energy that comes with the 49ers of old. Welcome to another episode. This will be very similar to how we would usually do the after show after Grant's live stream when we go directly to my channel and continue the dialogue. I'll go through some of my thoughts to say what I'm thinking about at this point in time, where I'm at with the Niners. And then I want to hear from you all in the chat. I want to hear from everybody in the chat. Amazon already, we're going to win. Yes, indeed. I am with you there. On the other side of the spectrum, trade everything. Asics, I'm going Asics on that pronunciation. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But yes, I think after this game, if things don't change, I'm on board with you. If we lose to the Chicago Bears, goodness gracious, it may be time to mortgage pretty much everything. Ellis10 says the 49ers are second most penalty yards, 485 behind the Browns. Wow, I wouldn't have picked the Browns to be there. If we can clean this up, we can get more wins. Yes, absolutely. There are a lot of things to be cleaned up. A6. Of course it's A6. Of course it is. But yes, thank you for the shout out on the jacket. I do love it. It's my favorite. I have to be honest that while I am old enough to own one of these, the oldest piece of 49er gear that I have, unless I still have my Jerry Rice 101 t-shirt with FD on written on the back in puffy paint, because I wrote that when I was 15 before a game, because I was angry in 1995 that Deion Sanders left the 49ers. But this is the oldest piece, but I did buy it vintage. I didn't pick it up new, but people are loving it. Ellis10 loved the jacket, had one back in the 80s. Yes, they are classic. The chalk line and the starter jackets are phenomenal. And then I had to make sure that everything was aligned in the background within the office, again, to get the energy out there for the 49ers, because it's all about what can I do? How can I increase the chances of the 49ers taking home a victory through my butterfly effect? People are always asking about the brick. The brick is now backstage with me. Take a look at this. You won't be able to hear me as well for a second, but here we go. Look in the background here. Oh, yeah. The brick is here, baby. The brick is here. We've stepped it up. We've stepped it up to see that the brick is in the building and make sure that we're doing all that we can as 49ers fans. So like I said, I want to go through a couple of thoughts that I had about the 49ers. I see some action in the chat, and I want that to continue, because as soon as I get done going through my points here, about 7 of them, I'm going to want to go back over and continue the dialogue in the chat, because that's typically what we do on Fridays, is we interact, and that's what I love. It allows me to get my thoughts out there. It allows you to get your thoughts, your questions, and that usually brings up some fun shit to talk about. I got to remember not to curse too much, because I don't want to get YouTube dropping the hammer on me. But I think as long as I stay away from the F-bombs, which, believe me, it's hard to do, I think as long as I stay away from that, I'll be safe. So you guys stay away from the F-bombs in the comments too. That would be much appreciated. Want to start with, this one's just off the top of my head, but how about the fact that the Cardinals are fallible once again? Get that wire out of here. The Cardinals are fallible. Ooh, I thought that LaFleur had pulled a Shanahan last night. They had 2nd and goal at the 1 after Aaron Jones's touchdown got called back, and then took the ball out of Aaron Jones's hands. Like, he was unstoppable. And then for 3 downs, they're like, nah, Nah, not going back to him. It really was reminiscent. I had just got done saying to myself, wow, LaFleur is really, he understands that when you're running it down their throat, you just keep running it. And then sure enough, the Shanahan coaching tree came through in him. And just when he should have been running it, he decided to throw a couple of passes. Obviously, I say that in jest. I love our coach, even though he's struggling at the moment. And I know a lot of you want him fired. I'm not on that bandwagon yet, but I had to call that out. I think one of the biggest weaknesses for that Cardinals team is what you saw at the very end of the game, and that's a pouty Kyler Murray. I don't like to see Aaron Rodgers traits in my quarterback, right? That glance at the sideline. The look that I see on Kyler Murray, and I've seen it a lot throughout Aaron Rodgers' career, and I would point to this as a reason Rodgers has only won one Super Bowl. You could point to the inefficiencies of the Packers front office and being able to build the team around him. I think there's something to a true leader who puts the weight of the team on his shoulders and when things go badly, takes the brunt of that themselves. The Kyler Murray look that I'm talking about, to me, and this is outside observation, I have zero insight into the Cardinals locker room, but body language is 70 to 93% of nonverbal communication. Body language is 70 to 93% of the communication that you put out there. So I don't need to hear what's going on when I can see what's going on and see what Kyler is communicating to his teammates when he has that sulky, pouty look that really appears to place the blame on someone else. Now, let's be very clear that the blame should fall on AJ Green in what happened at the end of the game last night. That much is clear. But it's not helpful at other times, and you see it flashed across his face many times. I'll be anxious to see if that team doesn't start to unravel a little bit. A lot of those problems will be masked by the fact that that offense is super explosive and can put points on the board. Just lickety split, right? I mean, it's amazing how quickly they can score. Let's get away from the Cardinals. Until we win a few more games, they're a bit irrelevant because they are so far out in front. They and the Rams both sitting with one loss at this point in time, I believe. And so let's get back into our San Francisco 49ers. My first question for the chat, and you guys try to answer this with more than just a yes or no. So when I get back through and read it, I know that you're responding to this one. But when you view this, I know a lot of people will say you are what your record says you are. And that's true. The 49ers are 2-4. They are not a good football team. But are the 49ers better on paper than the record says that they are? This is an important question to me because you could have a dozen 2-4 teams in the league, right? Theoretically, you could have a bunch of teams sitting at the same record. But not all of those teams have the same level of talent on the roster. Not all of those losses were equal. Not all of those wins were the same. When you look at the product on the field with some of these teams in the NFL, you can tell that they are not good. They have depleted rosters. They're young. They're building. They're rebuilding. Whatever the reason may be, there are plenty of teams sitting at 2-4 where you have zero hope. I'm not there yet with the 49ers, and I'm interested to hear from those of you in the chat what you're thinking about it, because I see this as a talented roster. I see this as a team that's capable of turning it around because many of these problems are fixable in season. And I want to drive home that point for me. That yes, the 49ers are 2-4. Yes, they have an incredible hill to climb to get back into relevancy. Yes, it's a stretch to even think that they'll be able to make a wild card spot this year. But let's keep in mind the fact that because this roster is so talented, it's entirely possible if they go on to make the playoffs that they are that team that other teams are scared to play. The wild card team that comes up on the schedule and you think to yourself, oh man, this is going to be a bigger matchup than it says on paper because this is a talented team that's now rounding into form. Maybe I'm just being overly optimistic, but I think it is still wildly possible. If you guys are here in the chat, I want you all to go ahead, put your thoughts down, and while you're at it, subscribe, hit the like button. Let's get this thing turned up a bit, see if we can't get a few more viewers in by driving that algorithm if you like it. If you don't like the content, don't like it. Don't subscribe. I wouldn't force you to do anything you don't want to do. What's my next thought on the 49ers? Turning flashes into consistency. This is the frustrating part, 49ers fans. This is the frustrating part, is that I see, it passes the eye test on the field that the 49ers flash greatness. When you think of that first drive against Indianapolis, come on. That misdirection, those runs, we were gashing them, man. We had them on the ropes. It looked like the 49ers were going to walk away with the game. It looked like Indianapolis had no answers. After the game, Darius Leonard confirmed for us that the Colts had no answers, and it was merely a mental mistake. Kyle Shanahan getting too creative, getting too cute, trying to outsmart his opponent, but in doing so, truly only outsmarting himself because he got away from what was working before Indianapolis adjusted. He made the adjustment to try and stay ahead of them. I guarantee that's what he's thinking. He's thinking that, yes, the Colts are going to switch it up and they're going to start stacking the box and stop the run. And we don't want to get into a situation where we're behind the downs, behind the chains. We want to stay ahead. And if we move, if we zig when they're zagging, we're just going to keep throwing all over them. But it didn't work out. On the defense, you've seen games where it felt like they had no adjustments. Against the Packers, it didn't feel like we could make an adjustment to save our lives. The next week, coming back, all of a sudden we were making all the right moves. We held the Arizona Cardinals, a team that's averaging, 35 points a game, to 17. The defense has shown flashes at time. But the problem is we've not seen consistency for this 49er team. We have not seen a team that's able to put together 4 full quarters of consistent football. They've been unable to show us what they're made of for 60 minutes. Can they replicate that success on a regular basis? And if so, how? For me on the offense, it's a simplification. It's getting back to what you do well. On defense, it's all about communication. Fred Warner controlling the entire defense, but also Hufanga talked about it in his presser today. It's about that communication on the back end. We can't have those badly missed coverages that we've seen at times. We can't have the aggravating PI penalties. We have got to be able to play consistently, get back to basics, and just execute. Just focus on the fact that for a lot of these games left on the schedule, the 49ers are the more talented team, the more talented roster. They should not have to out-scheme many of these teams. In fact, they shouldn't out-scheme themselves. That would be my premise, that the continual complicated offense we're running is causing penalties. It's causing misalignments. It's causing confusion amongst our own players greater than it's causing confusion on the other side of the ball. So if we have a talented roster, let's get out there and prove it. Let's get out there and show people what this 49ers team is about. Let's show them some heart. And that's got to come from the players. That, honestly, as much as you want to criticize Kyle Shanahan, as much as I criticize Kyle Shanahan, as much as I want him to develop a servant leadership mindset, a greater accountability to his personality style, those things are not what will make the players run through brick walls. Yes, it can increase their enthusiasm out there, but really, I think that's players challenging players. I think that is, one man calling out the next. I am old school in that regard, and I get that the modern athlete is less inclined to do that. But I agree that on the good organizations, on the organizations that have the top head coaches that are continually in the playoff hunt, that year after year show success, the Pittsburgh Steelers, a prime example, even as they ride Ben Roethlisberger into oblivion, their previous greats, their gold jacket players coming back into the room, coming back into the locker room, talking to the players on the field, telling them what accountability looked like in their day, how they held their teammates accountable, how they fired each other up. I realize times are different now, but you can't tell me that Ronnie Lott, Jerry Rice, Joe Montana, Steve Young, Roger Craig, you cannot tell me that if you brought those gentlemen back into the locker room and gave them that face time, that they couldn't get this current roster fired up. Fired up. Because that's what we need. We need to turn those flashes into consistency. Next thought I had that I wanted to get out there is that the 49ers have been slow to react. And the most recent thing that was pointed out to me that caused me to believe this, but I think that it's a trend, because quite honestly, it goes back to the beginning of the season as soon as we started losing, and even in the games where we won, but there were cracks in the foundation. I hear that right now, as of today, yesterday, the DBs are running some drills down the sideline, turn around without grabbing, swatting the ball, practicing what they need to do in order to avoid these pass interference penalties. And my question is, what took so long? What took so long? This is a glaring issue for this secondary. I mean, it's atrocious. I believe that we have 250 pass interference yards. 250. Are you kidding me? This feels very similar to the way in which the 49ers reacted to the losses early on. It was a very, very unconcerned 49er team. Even though there were serious concerns to be had, serious cracks in the foundation. Again, it felt like Kyle was stubborn. It felt as if he wouldn't take those questions in the presser. He was very standoffish. He didn't like hearing about the quarterback controversy. How dare the beat writers ask about the quarterback controversy? You should have known coming into this season that there were going to be endless questions about the quarterback controversy. You should have known there would have been a controversy. Even if Jimmy was doing well, there would be a camp that was asking, when is this rookie that you gave up such significant draft capital to bring in going to get the field? But you're not seeing it. It has been slow to progress. In fact, we went the other route when there weren't exciting things happening on offense. Instead of getting more snaps for Trey Lance, we pulled him out of the game plan. And it took until a significant beatdown headed into the bye week for Kyle to really feel like he changed his tune, to hear a difference in the press conferences. And I'll give him credit, because right now I'm liking the tone that I'm hearing. Much more humility, much more acceptance of the blame squarely on his own shoulders, and I applaud him. That's exactly what I want to see, and I want him to double down on it going forward. Next thought I had here was a question around whether it would be fair to start Trey on Sunday. I've seen people suggest that maybe Kyle's planning it as like a sneak attack for the Bears. I'm not sure I buy that. I don't put that past Kyle to go ahead and say, well, there's no way he starts, and then bring him in and completely catch the defense off guard. That would be quite clever. And I think you have to say to yourself, that's not fair to Trey. Trey deserves to be 1,000% healthy before he goes in there again. He's got to be able to protect himself, because Trey is the future. Trey is the future of this franchise. Kyle knows it. We know it. Everybody knows it. So you cannot afford to put him back out there and have an RG3 situation. But you also need to prepare him as best you can to be successful. So if he's not a full participant in practice when game plan is being implemented for the week, I think you got to scrap him, right? You cannot start him in that circumstance. You've got to limit him to going in for snaps. But let me be clear that for me at this point, I don't care whether your plan is to roll with Jimmy G starting. You need Trey in the game. I think it needs to be progressing towards Trey starting, regardless of mathematical elimination from the playoffs, because that's going to take a really long time. And I think we have all seen what we're going to get out of Jimmy Garoppolo, barring some type of an incredible turnaround. So no, I don't think it would be fair for Trey to start Sunday, not because I don't have faith in Trey's abilities, but because I want to put Trey in the best situation, the best possible scenario to be successful. I don't want another Alex Smith on our hands where the 49ers ruin a young, talented quarterback. The friends and family plan. So I said, barring an instance where Jimmy G completely turns it around and opens it up and shows you what he's made of. If you're sitting in the chat right now, I want you guys to keep throwing in the chats. Smash that like button. Yeah, I said smash it. The friends and family plan. Jimmy G has said that he will have in the neighborhood of 100 friends and family in the stands on Sunday. He's going to be playing in front of the home crowd. Will we see a more inspired James Garoppolo? It's possible. I go back and I watch the tape of Jimmy at the podium in 2017, and it's heartbreaking, faithful. It is heartbreaking. Go back and watch it yourself if you have not. Because what it shows to me, again, back to the body language question. Look at Jimmy Garoppolo's body language in 2017 and flash forward to his body language now. His confidence is gone. He's been beaten down. I don't know if it's because of Coach Shanahan and his his perfectionism, what he demands of quarterbacks, the way that he treats them, the way that he uses the stick approach as opposed to the carrot, like he's never eaten a carrot in his life. I don't know if that's what's beating him down or if it's the injuries. Certainly, Jimmy has gone through some painful times. To miss the entire 2018 season and then to suffer through what he did in 2020, feeling like maybe this was the season for him, that he'd have one last ride with the 49ers, only then to also be marred by a similar injury, one that leads to fans questioning his toughness. I mean, brutal. Brutal. I don't think I could I don't think my confidence would respond well to that. I don't think your confidence would respond well to that. And you see it at the podium. Watch the nervous tics. The touching the face. He does it all the time. He didn't do it back in 2017. In 2017, he stood chest out at the podium. Wildly confident. He was slinging it around. He had just come in from the New England Patriots as what seemed to be the heir apparent to the greatest of this generation. Belichick then traded him away to the San Francisco 49ers. He was going to be the savior. A team that needed badly anyone to revive this organization. And he came in, he commanded the team at the line of scrimmage. He didn't know the playbook, but it didn't matter. He took control. Players were all talking about his swag. It was an energy that was palpable at the time. So palpable that many of us didn't bat an eyelash at the enormous contract he was given after such a small sample size. I admit to that myself. I was trepidatious. I was a little skeptical, but I said, well, it's the price of doing business in the NFL. They left themselves a couple of outs. Can he regain that confidence? Will playing in front of 100 plus of his closest friends and families light a fire under his ass? You would think if there's anything that can do it, it's a little hometown cooking. Fingers crossed that the Jimmy Garoppolo of old returns on Sunday. But even so, even if that's the case, it doesn't stop my belief that you continue to get more and more snaps for Trey until he can start, until he has the confidence of the coaching staff. Sac City, USA. Yes, indeed. We are headed into Chicago, Sac City, USA. Justin Fields has been sacked 22 times in 7 games played. He didn't even start all those and has been sacked 21 times. He leads the league in lost sack yardage at 179 lost yards due to being sacked. 49ers have some pretty decent defensive ends, although they are depleted at the position, potentially heading into Sunday, with a doubtful designation for both D Ford and Samson Ebukam. But a return off of the pup from Willis. Will it be enough to get some sacks? Jordan Willis, I don't know what we'll see there. But what I do know is Nick Bosa is going to be all over this. It's an embarrassing stat for the Bears. You have to think, much like the 49ers and their 250 pass interference yards, that this is an embarrassing stat for the team, that it's something they're actively working at. So the 49ers cannot be overconfident. Just because this is the worst sack total yardage in the NFL by a wide margin does not make this game a gimme. No game is a gimme for the 49ers this year, because we walked into Indy playing at Levi's thinking that one was a gimme, didn't we? Didn't most of us think that, well, the 49ers should win this one? That didn't go as predicted. So what are the predictions? And don't you worry if you're in the chat, we're getting into the comments in just a second, and we will catch up and go through everything you're excited to talk about. Stay with me on this one. And again, if you're here, help me out. Hit that like button. I appreciate it. It's all part of the algorithm, right? It feeds my transmission to more and more eyes. And people got to see this. People got to see the gold jacket. It's the only way that the butterfly effect works. When enough 49ers fans have heard the cry, have heard the challenge for us, the faithful, to step it up in the same way that the players must step it up on the field. My prediction going into this thing, the defense will get back on track. We will feast on that suspect Bears offensive line. We will continually sack Justin Fields. It will be clear to 49ers fans that we got the right quarterback in the draft, I hope. I expect a better game out of Jimmy. I do think that playing in front of the home crowd, playing in front of 100 of his closest family and friends will motivate him. I think he's at the end of his rope. What does he have to lose at this point? So if he feels pressure going into many of the games, going into a lot of games where that pressure is insurmountable for him, maybe that dissipates. Maybe getting so close to being benched alleviates the pressure. What do you have to lose at this point? Don't even worry about it, Jimmy. Go out there and sling it like you did in 2017. Go out there without a care in the world. Go out there fired up. I think that the 49ers get back on track this weekend. Give us a little bit of hope, because after that, we go into a gauntlet. But I'm predicting 49ers win 24-16. I think the defense contains Chicago, and I think we can put up just enough to get by. So imagine that, faithful. Imagine a win this week. Imagine beating a healthy Arizona the week after that. They're fallible. We just saw it. We almost beat Green Bay, and Green Bay just beat Arizona in Arizona. Let's be honest. Jimmy G's proven that when he's playing well, he can win in this league. So can he regain some confidence? Is this a game where he gets a little bit of it back? Can he win a couple in a row? What if he could rip off a streak of 5 like he did in 2017? Is there enough time for this team to get back into that wild card hunt and get Trey Lance enough playing time to where he is starting at that point? And would this not be a completely different 49ers team? I think it would. Let's get into your comments here. It's going to take me a long time to catch up here, so stay patient with me here. Stay patient. I love it. Ooh, Queen here talking about the black jacket from the 80s. I need that. I mean, I love all of these satin jackets are fire. The red satin jacket that's come out now, the Faithful to the Bay. Man, I just missed getting the right damn size for me. I got the wrong one. It's too big. These old 80s ones are weird because, like, they're bigger in size, but they're real short. So it's a little boxy on me, but that's just 80s cut, baby. That's just how we used to do it. Paul saying, what's up to the 49er folks? What's up, Paul Perryman? How you doing, my friend? All right, Silas69's coming in. Hey, Rob, are the 49ers the favorite to win the game versus the Bears, or are we the underdogs? I believe that the 49ers are the favorites going into this game, but I don't have it for certain in front of me. I bet somebody can answer in the chat. Yes, we've got Leo coming in saying 49ers favored. Boom. He's also right behind that 49ers team. Let's go, Niners. That was Patriot level bailouts. We talking about the game last night? Probably. That's what I was talking about then. Ellis10 pointing out the 49ers are tied in third with turnovers, 11. This cannot continue if the 49ers want to turn the ship around. Absolutely not. You have to hope that Jimmy Garoppolo is able to curtail the turnovers and that every running back has it high and tight. Certainly, you wouldn't want an atrocious game from Trenton Cannon, but that felt like a one-off. It felt like a terrible play that then compounded for him. He got into his own head. Going back to that game for Arizona, Paul calling out, it's not a good look if you don't run on the goal line and lose. Yes, Packers fans would have lost their minds if they had lost that game. And it was a miracle play. AJ Green it did look like a Madden team where the controller got disconnected and all of a sudden the player just stops moving and doesn't turn around. It was weird. It was weird, admittedly. Hell of a play by the DB to get to it, to tip it, and catch it. It's crazy. Agree, A6. Kyler Murray does pull that look every time that he loses. Absolutely. I agree with this sentiment as well by Guayabo. Does that sound right? Guayaba. That's what I'm going with. Guayaba. Correct me if I'm wrong, though, please. Kyler left it all out there. Can't be too upset about it. No. You can't be upset with the way in which he played. But I agree with Asics on the fact that I think it's the immaturity that you'd like to see him pick up on. Absolutely. Paul, a little bit of a dispute to my stance that Jimmy now is displaying poor body language at this point. But Paul calling out, Jimmy has decent body language, but then doesn't take real accountability. I agree. I haven't seen, up until these last couple of weeks, I haven't seen 49ers and the coaching staff taking the type of responsibility I want to see them taking. But slowly but surely, I feel that leaders are being formed within this locker room. Guys who needed to step up are slowly starting to step up. Some of the leaders that were already within the locker room are returning to health and will return. All of that bodes well for this team. Leo talking about no QB is like that these days. That's old school QB play. Not sure what it's referencing, but yeah, I agree that people have changed significantly in the league. You used to have a lot of people calling each other out, but nowadays it seems like they're a little too sensitive for that. And maybe it's the right way. Maybe it was wrong to be calling one another out, challenging one another. Maybe it's good that we live in a more supportive environment. Who knows? I'm too old for that. Paul coming in, I want Shanahan to be fully supported by the Yorks. If he wants a guy, then they should do everything they can do to go get him. If they aren't willing to do that, then they should move on from each other. That's a fair point, that you want a team that has full faith from top down. You got to be in lockstep. Leo agrees that yes, the 49ers are better on paper, but terrible focus. Agree wholeheartedly. Agree with Paul. They deserve their record. I'm not questioning that. But it's important to know that there's more talent in the room because that is what gives us hope going forward. Ro, I appreciate the shout out for the dope jacket. I do love it. My favorite jacket of all time. Asics is with me. I still got a sliver of hope. I do too. Let me tell you this. I've changed my expectations, okay? So I'm not expecting the 49ers to be a wild card team, but I still hope they are. And I think it's a reasonable hope. I don't think that I'm being foolhardy. I believe that what we see with the talent on the roster and the inconsistency of this team, if they can fix the inconsistencies and put solid games on tape, I have no problem believing that they can turn this around and be a competitive team. More on whether the Niners are better than their record. Guayabo says, I think we are better than our record shows. That being said, the 49ers are a train wreck of mistakes. I can't argue with that. Over and over and over. We continue to make the mistakes. Paul calling out Lance is going to come in on fire like Jimmy did in 17. Come in like fire. Yes, indeed. I sure hope. Guayabo, you and me both. I just want us to finish strong. Indeed. Chester coming in saying, I feel that the offense is so bad that we're kind of in a bad position. I agree that the offense hasn't been able to live up to their side of the ball. The defense has come out like gangbusters, and so many 3-and-outs have led to the defense getting thrown back on the field quicker than they should. They haven't had time to rest on the sideline. A turnover by the offense. They come in ill-prepared. Those are the worst. When you have that sudden turnover by the offense, the defense was not prepared to come on the field, and you can tell from the first play. They all of a sudden get gashed by the run game as they were not getting gashed before because they weren't expecting. They weren't mentally prepared to come on the field. Change of possession, they just got to turn it around and get out there. It's no excuse. NFL defenses need to be ready at the drop of a hat. But it's fair to assume that you're less prepared to come on the field when you don't expect it, when that turnover happens without you knowing that you're going in after a score or after a 4th down where you had the punt. Queen Token talking about very talented team that just isn't getting it done. It starts with coaching. Absolutely. I think you've heard me say it on this show before. I believe in the buck stops here mentality. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you sit at the big desk, the buck stops with you. All the problems fall on your doorstep. I gotta get those words out of my mouth. Yes, you have to answer for the problems of the organization, even if they aren't your fault. You should be the one that says, that's on me. I got to do a better job. That's how I believe in leadership. That's how I believe it works. I believe that a leader's job is to invest in the success of their people, that your success is my success, that you should know I care about you as a person, not just an asset on my football team, because in that instance, you'll run through a wall for me. Jesse talking about it's all about the run game. How about Elijah Mitchell, man? Bobby Turner, Kyle Shanahan, just continually finding these gems in the draft. You've got to give them credit for that. Even if you're mad that they took Trey Sermon and he hasn't materialized yet, you got to give them credit for the fact that they keep hitting on these late finds. Leo talking about the 49ers could be like the Giants years ago. Strong finish. Let's go Niners. Paul talking about, yes, very talented. Needs to be properly utilized. Agree wholeheartedly, Paul. A lot of the starters are gone next year. Yeah, we got a fistful of one-year deals. And honestly, if we lose this week, a lot of those one-year deals are probably headed out the door. Guys I like, Jaquiski Tart, one-year deal. Could probably help some other team out, even though he's dinged up. Trent Sherfield, great special teams ace. Could probably help out another team. Kaejuan Williams, quality slot corner. Probably has value there. A lot of these players. DJ Jones, my man DJ Jones. You know I like his barbecue sauce because part of the proceeds go to charity. A lot of those guys will be gone. They're players I want back, but if the Niners aren't signing them past this year, you got to recoup some draft capital. Apollo's on the negative side. Niners ain't winning, folks. Oh, I can't agree. But Jesse does. I agree. Maybe he's agreeing with something else. Jesse, I don't want to put words in your mouth there. Here we go. Ellis 10 with another set of facts for us. I love these. I love facts. The 49ers are ranked 30th in third down conversion. 31%. That's less than 1 for 3, folks. Less than 1 for 3. Come on, Kyle, he says. We know Trey Lance can get these conversions more often than Jimmy. Part of that's on the play calling, too, putting us, in third and long situations. We got to get away from those third and longs. The obvious passing downs. I got the hiccups here. Hiccups. It's because I couldn't agree with the fact that we ain't winning. We winning, folks. Lame. In 2019, he just kept running it, Paul says. Yes. I mean, we got to run it down people's throats. I think everything in the Shanahan offense starts with the run game. Ellis 10 reminding us that John Lynch has said he's on the record that Trey Lance will get his chance this season. The question is when. Agreed. But if we don't start seeing more and more snaps per game, my frustration level is going to go through the roof. Indeed, Leo coming in. 49ers are showing us that they lack the focus to be great right now. Good on paper. Ain't no such thing as paper champs. We got to get focused. Yes, indeed. And I'm going with A6 on this one as to who it falls on. Coach Shanahan. Queen, I think, agrees. agrees. Paul calling out, we need a safety, we need a turnover, we need points caused by the defense. As good as the defense has been to this point, they've been unable to force the turnovers, and that is unacceptable. Jesse calling out, we was running the ball good. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Amen, Jesse. Don't overthink it. Don't outsmart yourself. Paul calls out some things here, I believe, and I'll put it up. It's fair. We don't have our number one running back, number one tight end, number one defensive back, and now quarterback because Lance is better. Tough to win with those key missing pieces. Yes, absolutely. You could say that the 49ers are suffering from injury woes, but this year, I don't think that can be the excuse. Last year, 160 some games missed to injury. That is like 10 players missing all 16 games. 160 games missed to injury last year for the 49ers. That's wild. That's unprecedented. This year, it's much closer to form. And the guys who we lost, I'm sorry, but as much as I love Raheem Mostert, and I honestly would be fine if the 49ers re-signed him because of how special he is when he's healthy, I don't think you can count on him being a number one back. I don't think you can be shocked that he went down. You could be shocked it happened in week one. I'm sure that you hope to get through 8 games, at a minimum, like at the low end of what you expected. But you can't rely there. Guys with long injury histories, the body does start to break down over time and adjust to those initial injuries, forming fresh injuries. Roe asking, Rob Shue, is Shanny losing the locker room? I don't think so at this juncture. I still see positive things from people in the press conferences. But Nick Bosa brought up that we do need to see more leaders in the locker room. I mean, he said it in a different way, pointing out that many of our leaders are currently absent because of the fact that they're not on the field. But I got to say that it's close. I mean, it won't take for me much more bad things happening in order for me to say that yeah, probably he is going to lose the locker room. Ellis10 suggests, I truly believe Jimmy G wants out of SF. Can you blame him? And Trey Lance is ready. I just hope that Trey Lance is not put in as a starter before it's too late. Playoff window. I agree that it's time to get the rookie more and more snaps leading to the start. I think I'm a little more conservative in being okay with that transition happening over several games. But it's clear to me that winning now is not the priority. Developing Trey is above this season even, and I will agree with you on the fact that I think that, yes, Trey may give us more excitement and more chances to win this year as well. Yeah, and talking about the shoe, it's got to be the shoe. I should have brought my Nike 49er shoe. You're reminding me of things I need to put in the background. I got the hat, I got the brick, I got the footballs, but I don't have the shoe, and it's all about the shoe. Gustavo talking about 4K, Rob. Yep, you know it. I try for that. I gotta have that crispy camera. Gotta have it. Leo, yep, we need leaders on the field. It usually starts with a quarterback. Ain't happening yet with Jimmy. He gotta go. I'm still on the let's transition smartly train, but yes, it is Trey time. Trey time. Chester calling out Cleveland and KC isn't as expected either. No, teams do suffer, but the 49ers 4 out of 5 years, ooh, that is rough. That is rough. Scrolling through the comments, we are behind a little bit, but we're going to catch up. Ellis10, it's not too late for the wild card. This is the positivity that I need on the show and the reasons behind it. Don't get me wrong. I want to hear your thoughts about why it's not too late. I'll tell you, for me, it's the fact that we're only one game out of the wild card at this moment at 2-4. Now, there are a lot of tiebreakers that would come into that, but look at the teams that are competing for that third wild card spot. And don't forget, there is a third wild card spot this year. They're inconsistent, just like the 49ers. And I don't think many of them are as talented as the 49er teams. Ellis points it out as well. There will be 3 wild card teams. The 49ers can still get a 10-7 record and make the playoffs. Yes, I mean, who knows? Nothing's out of the realm of possibilities. 9-8 might be the team that makes the playoffs in that 7th seed. Who knows? A6, I agree that Fields hasn't looked good. He hasn't found his groove yet, but you do see the flashes of talent, of physical gifts, of what you saw pre-draft, of what you saw in college. He just hasn't been able to catch up with the game speed yet. But I'm confident if the Bears stick with him and don't get him killed by getting him sacked 22 times in a single freaking game. I'm kidding. He has 22 sacks on the season over 7 games played. But, you can't David Carr the guy. You cannot allow him to take the leading number of sacks, record-breaking number of sacks, and expect him to come out unscathed. Expect him not to be traumatized by that, not to get happy feet in the pocket. It's impossible. It's human nature. We adapt. If I'm constantly getting hit as a human being, I adapt to that. Guayabo talking about agreed. Trey already got short stick when they didn't let him get reps with the ones in the beginning of the season. I agree, which is why I think that this approach to Trey has to be very well thought out and executed from this point forward. Because at this point, let's be clear, it's been trash. AJB, Jimmy going to excel on the first drive, then slowly disappear. That's what we've seen to this point, isn't it, AJB? It seems to be the script. The script he executes. The initial drive. Boom, we're good. Then all of a sudden drops off a cliff. Yup. All right, scrolling through. Chester talking about, I don't know what happened to Jimmy. I think this goes back to my stance on Jimmy and damaged goods, from 2017 to where he is now in the body language. I don't know what happened to Jimmy, Chester says. He used to be okay. Now he's not even competent. I agree. I think that he's broken at this point. I think his confidence is shattered. I have to lay at least a fair portion of that blame at the feet of Kyle Shanahan. That's just my take on it. You could say it was the injuries. You could say it was a series of things. Maybe something happened in his personal life. We don't know. What's clear to me is what I see from Kyle Shanahan, the perfectionist nature, the body language from him. I can only imagine that it's very difficult to play for Kyle. And in looking at the drop-off in confidence, there's a link there for me. There's correlation. Maybe not causation, but correlation. AJB saying he went from gunslinger to handoff master. Yeah, there was like a 2-yard drop-off in average completion or average per attempt, like a big drop-off from that 2017 season into, I think it was even in 2019, when he had a great season, he had a considerable drop-off, much shorter passes even in that. Carlos thinking that it's the injuries that killed that confidence. I can't argue with that, and I can't imagine going through. I cannot imagine going through what he did with all those injuries, but I think I'm more on the AJB side here with putting it on Kyle, at least some portion of it. Ellis back in with the 49ers look great with the first 2 to 3 pre-scripted drives. Then they look deflated. Is this a sign of poor adjustment by the coach? It's certainly something by the coach. It's a lack of game feel by Kyle Shanahan. It's perhaps a lack of confidence. He may be in his own head at this point. It's fair to assume he's starting to doubt himself because he used to look like he had all the answers to the test, and that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Rowe says, from getting paid and going to the Super Bowl, then us drafting his successor, I can see why Jimmy's declining. I agree with that. It's easy to see why his confidence would be completely in the toilet right now, but this is a slow and steady decline that has been happening over a period of 4 years for Jimmy Garoppolo. Even when you look at the trend of 2019 and him being able to pull out what he did for that season, the fact that he regressed in pushing the ball down the field, I think you can see the start of him questioning his own skill set and what he does well, trying to work within Kyle Shanahan's system and failing, and maybe putting too much pressure on himself and maybe getting too much pressure from his perfectionist head coach. Just my 2 cents. Jesse says, I expect this. Trey is behind Jimmy. Jimmy is scared of Trey. I would be too if I was Jimmy. If I was a pocket passing QB, aka stand in one place, yeah, well, it's fair to see that the writing is on the wall for Jimmy G. Jimmy G's got to know that Trey's taking over. I mean, it's Trey time. But he's also got to set himself up for the next gig. I don't think Jimmy's done in this league. Do you? There's some team that thinks they can fix him. There's some GM who says, I can bring this guy in on a cheap deal. I can hand him over to my coach who regained some of that 2017 form. We've got a system that he can work better within. I mean, just picture Belichick saying to himself, well, I offered you a 2 potentially during the draft, which I'm suspect about that report, it being a firm offer. I'm sure there was a conversation feeling it out, but I'm guessing it was just the Patriots saying, no, we want to go with Mac Jones. But he could say to himself, well, you could have had a 2, but at some point we'll give you a 7th round, conditional 7th rounder for him. And then we'll rework his contract so we don't have to pay him what you were going to next year. You could see that happening. Someone trying to fix Jimmy. Absolutely. Jan talking about Fields needs some tennis athleticism. Oh, and awareness. He does need to develop that pocket awareness, no question. Chester talking about Kyle needs to delegate too many roles. I agree with this. The challenge on the field when it was not close to it because he was wrapped up in his play sheet, that's a head coach who's got too many things going on. And an offensive coordinator who told us point blank he would never dare ask to call the plays because Kyle's so good at it. At this point in time, we need to change it up. Kyle, you got to simplify things, and simplifying things can mean getting stuff off of your plate. Delegate. Trust those people that you put around you. You hired them. Are they not qualified? Get them to carry some of the load, Kyle. That's my 2 cents on it. I'm just going to keep repeating that's my 2 cents on it. It's become my go-to phrase for this show. I think that was just the 2nd time I've worked it in, but count on it another 12 times at least. Ellis coming in. Debo said he had a calf contusion and it hurt the next day, but he's fine now. So I heard him on today's press conference say, no, it wasn't. It was just a bruise. He got kicked during the game. But continuing the comment, Jimmy was out for a couple of weeks for this injury. I feel like he doesn't want to play for the Niners anymore. I'll be honest, after the Marcellus Wiley comments, it was Marcellus, right? That Jimmy's the B word, like that's hard not to hear from a teammate. Now, I think he's a questionable teammate as it is. He quit on the Packers, but McCourty chuckled at it as well and didn't step in to defend Jimmy. So, I would never insult someone like that personally, but I wasn't his teammate either. So I can't call it out. I think that players tend to play through a lot of injuries. It's also probably fair to question whether Jimmy could have played through a couple of his with what we've heard. Jesse saying Jordan's coming back off the pup, getting a sack. I hope you're right. AJB calling out Ebukam. Hopefully Ebu can't get a sack. Indeed. Look at this, Brandon. I'm a Colts fan, but you get a like. My man, Brandon. My man. Ellis calling out. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. Indeed. I say hit that like. Hit that like. We did definitely get the better quarterback, Alejandro says, about the 2 between Justin Fields and Trey Lance. It is bright for me. The future is bright, people. It is bright. All right, scrolling down. We're still 25 minutes or so. Uh-oh, here we go. Row with a prediction. SF20, Chicago 14. I like that prediction. I like it a lot. I see this being within 1 score. I've got it at 8 points, which technically still 1 score, right? I like that. I don't know. I heard Matt Barrows talk about a 2-score victory. I just don't have that type of faith in our ability to execute for a full 60 minutes. I think this is going to be a progression. I had weeks ago said the light could flip on. The 49ers may hit the switch and the light will come on. I'm not so sure it's that quick of a fix anymore. So I'm with you, Ro, within 1 score for sure. Chester pointing out this is what it's come to, a desperate win in Chicago. Indeed, that's where we are. AJB, yes, indeed. LaFleur was under Kyle, does come from that coaching tree, which is why he decided to throw the ball instead of running it when it was 2nd and goal at the half-yard line, for sure. All right, Carlos coming in asking, do you think John is riding on this game, or does he have to the end of the season if they lose? I don't think you'll see any knee-jerk reactions from Jed York because I think he wants to avoid looking panicked. I do think Jed learned from the 2014 debacle and the 2 years that followed after that. He has expressed greater patience. He has recused himself, except when he gets apparently drunk and decides to start drink tweeting during the draft and things like that. But for the most part, he stays quiet. He allows the front office. The leaks seem to be gone for the most part. So I have faith that he won't react to this. I think if you saw continued PIs, that you might see the defensive backs coach let go, even though he was brought in supposed to be an upgrade. You've got to do something, man. That is just, you have veterans grabbing people every freaking deep ball. You're turning a 50-50 ball into a 100 ball for the offense. Like, that's unacceptable. David saying, afraid your pick is overly optimistic. Fields is due for a breakout game, but so's Jimmy. So's Jimmy. Isn't he? Isn't he? We'll see. What you talking about, Willis? What you talking about, Willis? Pump some positive vibes, Rob, for the Niners. They need it. Yes, sir, they do. Also, some Swedish fish is awesome. I don't know what anyone says. My wife's a big fan of Swedish fish, and I am on the other side of that. I am with the fans who are like, Kyle, your favorite Halloween candy is Swedish fish? Come on. But my wife loves them, so you know. AJB asking, does Kyle get 3 challenge flags for this game? It seems like he may need it. Jesse comes in. That guy Kyler should not run. That man is too short, and he going to take a big hit. I'm interested by the running style of Kyler Murray and the way he holds that football out there like a loaf of freaking bread, man. That thing, and on occasion, more than one occasion, has bounced it off his own thigh pad. More than one occasion. Like, it's a problem that he starts to run, has the ball loosey-goosey in this hand, and then hits it on his own thigh and fumbles. That's unacceptable. You can't have that. I know that the modern day quarterback oftentimes runs around with that thing out there loose. And believe me, if you get away with it, that's fine. But if it becomes an issue like Kyler and the weird stumbles, I don't know. I would think a guy of his size would be wildly coordinated, and sometimes I just don't see it. Bryant coming in. What's up, Bryant? Looking good. Gold jacket member, he says. What does the back of your jacket look like? Let's see if we can. It's the 49ers. That's my favorite version of this one. I know that there's the 4.9 ERS version. The one for me, this is it. I searched it high and low, and I just love it. It is my favorite freaking Giants. My favorite freaking Niners gear. What's up, Interrupts? How you doing, man? Bryant coming back in. Rob, I have several gold jackets. My favorites is my gold and black reverse. Oh, that's crisp. I got to see it. Bryant, throw that out on Twitter. We got to see some good Niners gear. That's what's going to take it up a notch for the Niner faithful. Ellis coming back in. Ellis has been dropping facts. I appreciate that, Ellis 10. For a fact, I appreciate your facts. Remember, aside from the Colts matchup mess, the 49ers losses have been within a score. Even with the horrible mistakes, the 49ers can turn this around, but it needs to be soon. Yes, indeed. It's got to be this weekend, right? I said, can you imagine if the Niners win this one? And if they win I got the happy-go-lucky feelings going. But 49er faithful, bear with me a moment. Can you imagine what it's going to be like if we drop this one to Chicago? Oh, man, that will be gnarly. 49ers fans are already losing their minds. Things will get dark. I will get dark. I will have a moment of emotion. I go through my 5 stages of the 49ers losses from everything from denial to acceptance. I have to process these things. So if we have another loss Sunday night I may be too emotionally damaged to come on live Sunday night because I'm busy crying in the corner, holding myself. But I'll come on Monday and talk about how bad they were. Matter of fact, this Monday, I'm going to have Jordan Elliott, Splash Cousins from Twitter on, and we're going to break down the game. So if I don't come on Sunday night because I'm too busy crying, I'll be there Monday night breaking it down. I will get dark if it's a loss. Admittedly, it will take me maybe all week to process it. This week, about Wednesday, I started to feel better. And today, I'm back to confidence, back to feeling that there's a glimmer of hope, enough to stay hopeful, to stay faithful. JT pointing out, yes, indeed, Kyle is everyone's fault but mine, Shanahan. I have seen improvement there. I have seen improvement. I'm not seeing what I want to see. AJB calls it out, servant leadership. Go watch the John Harbaugh clip. I know I've said that a half dozen times now on different shows, but it's a 3-minute clip and it explains my beliefs in servant leadership, and it shows you why players are willing to run through brick walls for John Harbaugh. Plus, there's, Ray Rice in the background. Who doesn't want to see a clip of someone that's disappeared from public life for good reason, you would say. Rick coming out, Rob, how did you become a Niners fan? Interesting, Rick. Good question. I became a Niners fan in the mid-'80s. I was born in Massachusetts, grew up there for the first 8 years of my life, moved out to the West Coast. I think it was 86, in like October of 86. So the Patriots the year prior had lost the Super Bowl badly to the Chicago Bears. I was not really a Patriots fan at age 7 or 8 when we moved. And then when we got to California, my dad started getting tickets at Candlestick. He got 2 seats. Initially, we were just buying the seats for a couple of games from one of his buddies. Section 30, lower reserve, section 30, row 31, seats 8 and 9. I have 2 seats from Candlestick Park, seats 8 and 9. Supposedly, those seats. Not really, because I got them after the fact and we weren't season tickets anymore. But yes, those seats at Candlestick Park, I spent some of the best moments of my childhood at Candlestick Park. Best moments with my dad, best moments with my brother. I was at so many of those fantastic games. Starting in the 94 season, my brother left for college, so it was just my dad and I that year. I went to every single game. That Super Bowl year. It was magnificent. Early 2000s, we don't leave games early. I was there when the 49ers were down and they had the historic comeback against the Giants. And there was what should have been a pass interference call against Jason Shockey, but it ended up being just a botched field goal pass down to him, incomplete. 49ers win the biggest comeback in the playoffs ever. I just became a Niner fan from going to games. My dad introduced me to it, and I can't think of a time that I haven't loved the 49ers. My memory of my childhood before year 8 is pretty hazy. I'm not one of those guys who remembers a lot of those early years. My memories of Massachusetts are few and far between, but my 49ers memories are plentiful. Plentiful. Thank you for the question, Rick. I appreciate going down that memory lane. Interrupts coming in. We really miss Mostert, man. I miss him too. He was such a big part of our offense. He opened up so much for Kyle's playbook. Agreed. And very much in the way that you had to scrap a lot of the playbook when you lost him, because it was his speed that allowed you to complete many of those plays. I got my wires all messed up behind me. This headset going on now. All right. Here we go. Question at Rob. Are we going to beat the Bears? We win on the road? Yes, we do. You heard my prediction, 24-16. Julio is on board with me. I really don't like Trent being... Oh, no, this is about Trent Williams. My apologies. Don't like Trent being rushed into this game for Jimmy right off injury. Hopefully, if he's still feeling unwell... he's a vet. He's going to be okay telling Shanahan, no, I can't go, right? It's the younger players you worry about being forced to play when they're not ready. Jan talking about, I wish Lynch would stop talking. It does seem like he's contradicting, that he's coming off a little bit desperate. I know that he's got to keep making those appearances, but man, it doesn't look all that great. David coming in, what is the record for most defensive pass interference penalties for a season? I don't know, but that's a great question. Niners on pace to break that? I would think so, at least in the yardage component. Maybe not in total penalties, because it's not a ridiculous number. It's a ridiculous number of yards given up because of it, right? It's the big, deep shot plays that we're committing these PIs on, giving them 40, 50-yard chunks. That's an exaggeration, but you know, they're big. Ellis, appreciate you. Hit the like and subscribe buttons. You know that's good for getting my voice out there. It's what I want to do. I want more people to hear this positivity in a faithful land. Faithful Niner Empire. Niner Empire. G. Reyes. We'll know everything we need to know after Kyle runs his scripted plays. That will tell us if he's pulled his head out. I don't know, man. You saw the scripted plays really work against the Colts, and then what happened? Where'd it go, Kyle? It was working. The misdirection. It was working. The run game had him against the ropes. Darius Leonard tells us it. But he got away from it. After the scripted plays, he got away from it. Ryan, thank you. Killing it. You guys are killing it in the chat with these freaking comments, man. Freaking A. Chester coming back in. If Trey is good, we are going to be really good. Look at how getting a better QB helped the Rams. Amen to that. Matthew Stafford, he's topping the league in something. What is it? QBR? Jimmy's 28th? Yeah, it ain't exactly pretty. But yes, Chester calls out Rams who run essentially the same system as us. The same base of the system. Now it's, it's got McVay's touches on it and McVay's enthusiasm. As a pump-up guy, I appreciate the way in which McVay energizes his players, the way he acts on the field. I'm a fan, even though he's in the division. I hate to say it. Ken Fashion Journey talking about, you are awesome. You know I'll take a compliment any day of the week, Ken. I appreciate that. Okay, here we go. Tookster is not very optimistic. We are most likely going 1-2 the next 3 games. Oh, well, okay. I initially, as I started to read that in my head, I was like, wow, you think we're only going to win a couple of games the remainder of the year? No, what you're saying is the next 3. You're right. We're going into a gauntlet here, man. We got Chicago, and then we got Arizona and the Rams, right? So if we beat Chicago, we're all going to get this glimmer of hope. Man, I'm starting to get warm in here. This jacket doesn't breathe all that well. Yes, it'll be tough. But I think we match up against these teams. Those division games can be tight. And I think the 49ers have a chance to take them. A slim chance. But you're telling me there's a chance. So you're telling me there's a chance. Yes, indeed, I am. All right, Ellis back in. Okay, with the majority agreeing that Jimmy G wants out, if Jimmy plays poorly versus the Bears, win or lose, we all know what needs to happen. Save the locker room. I just don't know that there's any team out there that's willing to trade for him at this point, Ellis. I honestly don't. I mean, you would have to eat the vast majority of the salary. And then is it worth giving up a high-quality backup quarterback to then have Nate Sudfeld as your backup? Had they addressed this problem in the offseason, it wouldn't be such an issue. You could have gotten a proper bridge quarterback. You could have gotten a proper backup quarterback. But where the 49ers sit right now is such a conundrum because if you do get rid of him, it's hard to know what direction you go if something happens to Trey as a mobile quarterback. Chester points out, and correctly so, Kyle Shanahan lost 10 coaches. Maybe he doesn't trust the staff quite yet. That could be the case. AJB calls out, or maybe his coaches are in the doghouse. The doghouse seems to be a popular theme in San Francisco. Not a good thing, but a popular thing. EMA Beats coming in. Has DeMeco Ryans outcoached Kyle thus far? In my opinion, I believe so. I think so too, EMA Beats. If you had asked me that after the Green Bay game, I may have answered it differently because it felt like there were no adjustments. Felt like he had no answers for Bosa getting chipped. And then he came back the next week against Seattle, right? And looked like he had all the answers, moving Bosa all over the place. Defense held up against Arizona, even with considerable lack of help from the offense. So, yeah, I do think that, I mean, when you get beyond the flashes of Kyle, he's been bad, man. Real bad. And DeMeco's been good. So, yeah, I'm with you 100%, EMA. Ken coming back in. Kyle is indisciplined. Undisciplined. He always opts to passing play when the team falls behind. Just stick to the run game. Example, Super Bowl loss and all other losses. It's true. It is a character flaw for Kyle that he outthinks himself. It's tough. Melvin coming in. What's up, Melvin? It does seem like Mostert was Kyle Shanahan's secret sauce for winning. How many games have we actually won without him in the lineup? That'd be an interesting stat. Instead of the Jimmy G win-loss record, somebody go back and find the Mostert win-loss record. It might be reflective of that talent that we see. Brandon was already subscribed. I love it. I love my subscribers. I do. EMA calling it out. Hit those likes for the shoe show. Totally appreciate it. EMA beats. Absolutely. All right, here we go. A little back and forth, but I like it. Chester talking to AJB. Kyle's definitely overwhelmed because he's doing things that isn't like him. Yes, what you're seeing are uncharacteristic of Kyle. Agreed. Agreed, Chester. Jesse says, here's why we are not clicking as an offense. I think Kyle made two offenses, one for Jimmy, one for Trey. This was brought up on the podcast with Mayoko, and oh man, her name is escaping me right now, and I feel bad because I really enjoy her on the podcast. But yes, it was brought up there that potentially that's the issue. Certainly, their minds were split between two playing styles. And Kyle had called out when he came in 2017 that he did not want to have Kaepernick back for that exact reason, that he didn't want to have two different offenses. In that case, it would have been the starting quarterback who was the mobile quarterback and a backup that you wanted to play eventually that would have needed to operate within a different system. But he called out that you just don't have enough practice reps. So any time that they split going back and forth between the two offenses is time that they did not devote to one single offense. Yes. EMA calling out 55 in the chat. Let's see 55 likes. I love it. Get 100% completion percentage for this one. I like Ken's prediction, 24-17. He's going, I said 24-16. Ken's going 24-17. We are simpatico, my friend. Simpatico. Let's see who's closer. Because, I mean, we're right? We are right. Luke coming in, stumbles in late. It's Friday, Luke. It's okay to be stumbling a little bit. Friday afternoon, wherever you are. It might be 8:45 at night if you're on the East Coast. You could be stumbling. Stumbles in late, tries to hide Halloween candy from himself. Yes, I will be eating too much candy myself. On the theme of Kyle Shanahan, you know, in the chat, you can discern between your favorite candies as well. Kyle's a Swedish fish, very strange. I know we had one in the chat that vouched for Swedish fish. I already called out my own wife as a Swedish fish fan. Not so for me. I'm a Snickers kind of guy. Snickers, Twix, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, Kit Kat, like the original Hershey's staples. I went to Hershey's in Hershey, Pennsylvania as a kid and watched a vat of chocolate wave back and forth. I talked about not having many memories from my childhood. I was probably 5 when we went there. I remember watching waves of milk chocolate getting stirred back and forth. It was like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, for sure. Absolutely. EMA coming in. This is 4K clarity at a minimum. You gotta love it. You just gotta love it. And the radio voice, the silky smooth radio voice. I'm not, my ego is not that big. Trust me on that. It is not that big. AJB talking, Rob, would you consider a live show during a game? You know, that's an interesting proposition. I would, in that I love interacting with people. I would struggle in knowing how to be properly involved. Like, I like to go through and watch the game completely as a fan. I take notes on what I see, but I don't do it in the first viewing. I watch live. I don't have a pen and paper with me. I just absorb it. I feel it. I cheer. I'm loud. I get sad. I got my snacks out. I got my tradition. I make a guacamole and a cheese dip most of the time. You don't want to see me stuffing my face with that. But it could be an interesting way to get into a little bit of a back and forth. So I love the idea, and I'm going to keep that top of mind, AJB. I'm going to keep that top of mind. Ken coming back in talking about LaFleur, I see. Role reversal. LaFleur is balling as a coach versus Kyle has regressed. That's true. LaFleur hasn't gotten the credit he deserves, it would seem, with what he has done in Green Bay. All right, we're not too far behind. 19 minutes. We catching up little by little. Ken talking about every season we are burned at the corners. It does seem to be something we refuse to invest in constantly. We just think that we don't need to. we took one around the 100 mark in the draft, and we took another one in the fifth, but it felt like we could have addressed it earlier. I predicted we would take the offensive lineman in the second. I was right about it. I don't feel good about being right about that at this point. Sure seems like Asante Samuel might have been the pick to take. Coming back in with Ken, Kyle will freaking draft a wide receiver, but never a cornerback, at least not in the first 2 rounds. It seems to be anti-John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan to do so. Yes, Chester correctly points out that LaFleur does, in fact, also have a legend at quarterback. Dude, I mean, they called it out on the broadcast, but Rodgers, it's in slow motion for the guy. The fact that he turned and looked at the ref with the, like, you gonna call this? As he's being dragged down by the back of his jersey was phenomenal. You know, I don't always like Rodgers. I don't like his pouty attitude. I don't like the way in which he deflects responsibility. I don't think he's a great leader. I don't think he has the right attitude, but freaking talent and smarts and what he does on the field, my God. I do wish that we could have traded for him for sure. Ellis 10 talking about, I know the fans are lashing. Wait. I know the fans are losing faith in the 49ers' ability to get a dominant victory. It's true. We are. This game might be the bounce back game. 35-17 49ers. Defense will get a TD. We need it. We need the turnovers. We need a safety. We need defense to score some points. Melvin coming in here. At Rob Shoe. The at Rob Shoe is always good because it lets me know that you're talking to me. So just a pointer here. On YouTube, it actually turns red. Here on StreamYard, it doesn't, but I still see the at Rob Shoe, and I appreciate it. It seems to me that there is one constant in the majority of our wins. Mostert is in the lineup. Am I wrong? We talked about this earlier. I mean, this deserves a research project. I may have to take it on myself. May have to go back and research. What's the win-loss record with Mostert in there? AJB, I promised my wife that dope jacket if we won a Super Bowl. She's still waiting. Hey, man. Hey, it's something for her to look forward to. That gives her some skin in the game. Josh, has Rob talked about Kinlaw? He has not. Man, I hesitate to go with the bust, constantly injured moniker. The NFL is a violent game. These guys are playing it from the time that they're little. When you're a 300-pound man that is as physically dominant as he is, knee problems are almost inevitable at some level. It does seem to be a real concern for Kinlaw. I'm going to choose to be optimistic that this was the right call, that he needed to be shut down for the year, that he needed to get this surgery to get right. And I just hope that when he comes back, he looks the part. I'll wait and reserve judgment until then. But yes, Kinlaw has now had season-ending knee surgery. Got it from the same guy who did the surgery for Bosa, Jimmy G. Both of those did, in fact, heal properly, and they were optimistic that they located the source of the issue and rectified it. There are theories out there that it is a degenerative knee issue. We will find out. Jesse calling out that if the 49ers lose on Sunday, somebody's probably getting fired. And I think I probably agree with that. AJB's like, stop talking about losing, please. No. Chester Gray, Kinlaw equals Greg Oden. Ooh, that's a painful one for Trailblazers fans up here in Portland. Man, we knew about these injuries, why we didn't draft Lamb or Jefferson. Hindsight's 2020, but yes, it looks like both of those receivers are lights out. Lights out. Josh comes in correctly pointing out Kinlaw is done for the season. Bummer, but hopefully that means he gets right for next year. Chester coming back in. Niners fan since 89. Joe Montana to John Taylor. That's all it took. I was 7 watching the first Super Bowl with my dad. I remember watching all those Super Bowls. There was one Super Bowl I missed because my dad was on a business trip in Paris. He remembers that game because he heard the French announcer constantly talking about Jerry Reese. Jerry Reese. It's a funny story for him. But yes, every other Super Bowl I also remember watching with my dad. Chester talking about his dad's a Panther fan. G. Reyes coming in spot on. Rob, Kyle needs to snap out of his funk. Yes, he does. Luke talking about, if I sprain my shoulder hitting the like button, is that IR, pup, or non-related football injury? I'm going to go with IR on that one. That happened on the field. That happened in game action, Luke. That is game action. That's IR. IR was with a designation to return for greatness. Jason coming back. Great. Amen to that. Me too. Around the same age. Remember Montana, Taylor, and Rice. Oh my God. Those are fantastic memories of a phenomenal team. Chester just laughing at the injury. Sometimes you got to laugh just so that you don't cry. Ellis 10 coming back in. Rob, set up a cash chat so we can donate, my guy. Your channel is fire. I appreciate that, Ellis. For sure, I will go for that as soon as I hit 1,000 subscribers. We are getting close to that. I know I'm getting close in the 4,000 watched hours as well. I am totally down for that because I appreciate support for sure. More importantly, I just want YouTube to pay me for viewing hours, right? Because YouTube's got a lot of money, don't they? Don't they? I bet a lot of you guys have a lot of money too, though. Miwook coming in. Question. I thought Kyle's system can make everyone successful. Why is Jimmy so terrible? I don't know. We did hear that Kyle's system was genius. Kyle's system could solve anything, that you could plug almost anyone in. And, you know, when he was putting in a guy like Nick Mullins and having success, it seemed that way. And now it doesn't. Now it seems like you could put in a good quarterback and Kyle might not actually be able to dial up a winning game plan. I think he's just wrapped up in his head. I think Kyle's going through his own confidence issues. Hopefully he snaps out of it, man. Because if he doesn't do it here, you know he's going to do it at the next stop and win like a banshee out of hell for some other team. And I would rather that be the 49ers. EMA Beat saying thanks. You're welcome. Absolutely. Thank you, sir, for being here. Jesse coming back in. We can't keep Jimmy if Trey does poor. What if the locker room says put Jimmy in? Can't have that happen. That's fair. So this is probably in response to the question of keeping Jimmy as a backup because of the money that you're going to have to pay another team to trade him away. Again, I just wonder if the 49ers will have made the choice to move on by the trade deadline, and then if they have done that, whether they'll be able to find a trade partner. That's my biggest concern there, Jesse, for sure. Chester coming back in. Sniper Jimmy broken. He has regressed. I think he's mentally checked out. I can't speak to being checked out or not. He says the right things with regard to being checked out or not. But certainly the body language for me is the big tell. And that could be an indication of two things, many things, but two very clear-cut things. A lack of confidence in his ability to execute or being checked out. No problem. Luke coming back in. There's nothing wrong with Kyle that can't be cured with the love of a strong woman. She should be able to bench at least 220 pounds. I mean, maybe Kyle's wife needs to bench more. Is that the suggestion here, Luke? That could be, I'm impressed with a woman that can bench 220. No doubt about it. Jesse, that will kill Trey's confidence. We don't want K's. Yeah, here it is. I couldn't remember it earlier. Laura Britt is partnered with Matt Mayoko. Laura Britt. Good call, Chester. Rick calling out Kyler is hurt. Yeah, he left the game with the walking boot. Walking boot out of the stadium, but all indications were that he'd be fine. Unfortunately, he's got a long week to recover before he has to play the 49ers. But, and I don't hope for injury from anyone. Let me get that out there. However, you do have to be able to take advantage of teams in the NFL that are depleted by injury. And if Kyler is in any way shooken up, then yes, in fact, you have to be able to jump all over that. All right. Oh, you don't like me because you think I sound like Grant Cohn. I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm negative. Like, I don't believe I'm negative. I'm sorry you feel that way. You're entitled to your opinion. And I encourage all people to listen to everyone that's out there. Find the people that you like. But it's a little weird to come in here and try to say that you don't like listening to me when you're in here listening to me. That's a bit weird. Melvin coming in. Wouldn't it be better to lose with Lance under center this year than Lance learning to play QB next year and losing games? He's going to have growing pains. All young QBs do. Yes, you got to start the transition to Trey Lance. He is the future. No question about it. No question about it. The future is bright with Trey. See, there's that positivity. I ain't taking that label of saying that I ain't positive, because I am. I will continue to criticize my team, my coach, players when I see something that warrants criticism. And believe me, if you don't think Kyle Shanahan deserves criticism at this point in time, we need to have a conversation. I need to know why. I need to know how you're managing to stay 100% positive with everything you're seeing so far on the field. Matt Mayoko called this a bad football team. Matt Mayoko. I don't think I'm being overly negative. I think I'm being realistic. That's my stance on it. JT, people who don't have memories from childhood experiences, trauma. Oh, goodness. Maybe I experienced some trauma. Maybe I was, dropped off a cliff at some point. It's entirely possible. No, I do have memories, just not a lot. I have terrible memory, period. Terrible short-term memory remembering people's faces, all that. So that's just, I inherited that from my father. Chester coming back in, you have the play-by-play announcer voice. I appreciate that. Luke talking about, when I grew up, there was a chocolate maker at the end of our street. 2 malted milk balls for 1 cent. Holy moly. I'd like to get freshly made malted milk chocolate balls. Come on, that's fantastic. Gotta love that. Nothing better than a chocolate malt. It's choice. I love a good chocolate shake, but a chocolate malt, ooh, good stuff. Jesse, staying positive. Trey's going to be our QB for many years. It's going to look fun. Oh, it's going to be exciting. Ken pointing out, hi, Rob. I'm a Niner faithful from Malaysia since 1982. What's up, Ken? I always, I always live this confident that Montana... I always be this confident that Montana, Young, and Alex won't turn over the ball when they play, but I always be this feeling that Jimmy will turn over. Okay, so yes, you were confident that when Montana, Young, and Alex were there, that they would hold on to the ball. Ball security, with you 100%. Alex, in particular, as a real game manager, no question. I am with you that I can't not have a little bit of doubt every time Jimmy possesses the ball at this point. It feels like we are headed for turnovers. It's more than 1 per game at this point. It's crazy. It is crazy. Yes, indeed. Yes, I love the fact that Jesse's in here too. Keep on joining in with the chat and chopping it up with witty thoughts. I love chopping it up. Love it. Okay, G. Reyes is thinking that Jesse's right. Somebody's head is going to roll if we lose. Who do you think it is? Put in the chat. Who's head? Put like their name, and you think they're losing their job, the head's going to roll at the end of this one. To me, it's the defensive backs coach. It's Undlin, I think it is, right? To me, that's the only guy whose head is potentially on the chopping block. But I'm interested to hear if that's who you guys feel as well. Richard coming back in. Maybe the issue is Kyle. I think it is to this point. I think you have to say that he is in his own head and not playing up to his own potential, not coaching up to his own potential, not calling plays up to his own potential. Coming back in with Ken from Malaysia. I will trade injury-prone talents like Mostert, Kittle, Robbie Gould, Jalen Hurd to regain some draft capital. The question is, I'm not with you on Kittle. I would totally trade Robbie Gould at this point. I don't know that anybody would take him because of the size of the contract. And maybe there's a playoff team that needs a more consistent kicker that isn't concerned about distance, because it does seem that Robbie Gould struggles from distance. But Mostert, he's on the last year of his contract. And so I don't think anyone trades for a guy who's on an expiring contract with the injury. You would do that if it were a young, talented player where you wanted the rights to the negotiation rights. But Mostert, older running back. Some people say he's a system back, that he's only as successful as he is because of Shanahan's system. I can't dispute that one way or the other. But you would wonder if there's enough appetite for him to trade him. Kittle, I think that there would absolutely be takers on that. That would be devastating to me. I couldn't trade him. And then Jalen Hurd, I don't think he's going to play again. Doesn't look like it. That's sad to say. Jamie coming in. We lose to the Bears, the organization will be in chaos. What about the fan base? Burn it down. It could get real ugly. Ken coming back in. Hey, Rob, why Kyle can make CJ look freaking good and he can't do it with Jimmy? I don't know. He's damaged Jimmy to this point. Jimmy seems unfixable within this current set of circumstances. All right, here's a question for me. Jamie Bryant coming in. Which one would you rather have, OBJ or Howard? Ooh, which Howard are we talking about? I mean, I like Odell Beckham Jr. I think that it's a risk, though, man. Is he a locker room cancer? If things went this badly next year, would he be a detriment to the growth of Trey Lance? Potentially. Richard coming in with an observation. Garoppolo never mentally recovered from the ACL. I always wondered what would have been had 2017 Jimmy been on the 2019 squad. If he had been pushing the ball down the field that year as well as he did in 2017, you and me both. Ken pointing out that yes, indeed, Matt Mayoko, a fairly conservative and level-headed beat writer, not Grant Cohn, has lost his confidence and patience in Kyle and John. It is not, let me just say that, it is not unreasonable to criticize your team. I still have faith. I'm a huge Niner fan. Look at me. Look at my freaking set. I'm a huge Niner faithful. I want nothing but the 49ers to win. And I need to be somewhat realistic. I can't go into this week's game with the same expectations I had week one. I'd be devastated by a loss if I went in with those expectations. Going into week one, I thought this was a playoff caliber team that if things went right could compete for the Super Bowl. Maybe even have switched to the rookie by that point so that teams didn't have much tape on him and he was ripping off crazy statistical games in the playoffs. But things have changed. You got to reevaluate. Jay Riaz saying, no way, man. Iggy is way more dramatic than you. LMFAO. That's true. He's got this down. He's been doing it for a long time, and I am my own man. I am not trying to be in any way Grant Cohn. We have some similarities in personality types. It is why I initially reached out to him to go on his show, because I saw some things in the way he presents himself that I see in myself. But I will say Grant is willing to go down much more hypothetical rabbit holes than I am willing to go down. I believe in Occam's razor, which is that the simplest explanation is typically the real explanation. So I'm not big on QAnon theories. I am wildly opposed to QAnon theories and most conspiracy theories. I will never say they're not in the realm of possibility, because they are. Like, that's just a fact. Everything's within the realm of possibilities. We may be existing within a marble that some large alien creature plays with on the floor of his room. That might be our solar system. Who knows? But is that likely? Is that plausible? No, it's not. Talking about Medingo Styles, Kyle's burner account. I wonder if Kyle's got a burner account. He's got a real ego on him. You could see it. Richard coming in. Some say not to start a rookie, but I'm thinking that start. I think depending on what team you are and what your expectations are, you start the rookie as early as you can without ruining him. That's me. Jamie comes in and asks, do you think the Patriots called us about Jimmy and offered us a second? Yes and no to that question is my answer. Yes, I believe that the call took place. I'm guessing that it was a very informal call, and the 49ers were right to list their asking price. Now, if it was, hey, is there any way you're budging off of that one? And the answer was hard no, it's a one or nothing, then that's a mistake. But this is like putting an ad on Craigslist to sell your car. If you want to sell your car for 10 grand, you list it at 15 because people are going to lowball you. So if the 49ers expected to get a 2 for Jimmy at that time, they're going to list him at a 1. They're going to tell teams that, well, we expect to get a 1 from Jimmy. If the conversation was not between Belichick and Lynch or Belichick and Shanahan, I don't think it was serious. So do I believe the call was made? Yes. I do not think that Seth Wickersham or his sources are lying, but read it carefully and realize that any type of a phone call, feeling them out, and you don't know where in the organization the two people who spoke are, except that they are at a reasonable level, according to Seth. I think it was probably just a quick call that assessed value. And I don't think that it's anything we can truly criticize for. And by that point, the mistake had already happened. The mistake was believing that we could run this 2-quarterback thing to begin with, that we could have 2 wildly different quarterbacks that fit into 2 different offensive systems and try to fit them both into the other, that we would have a quarterback that we're trying to actively replace because he's not good enough and he doesn't stay healthy, and you replaced him with someone who's not ready to play now. That doesn't address the he doesn't stay healthy part of this equation, right? He got injured. You told us he was going to get injured. Like, that wasn't an unexpected. So to me, the point that we should all be upset about happened far before this. Once you got to the draft, there was no bridge quarterback you could bring in. Everybody, to my knowledge, everybody who would have been suitable to start or even be a backup had been signed at that point. All right, Rick coming in. Rob, Kyle's a man of many hats. Yes, head coach, offensive play caller, general manager. Maybe it's time to take some of those hats off. Yes, Kyle. Take off some of the hats. Take off that red hat and just, throw it over here. You don't need that hat. Let someone else wear that hat. You're wearing too many. You can really only fit one. Do what you're best at. Simplify, Kyle. Please, please, please. Get back to what you're good at. G. Rea is calling out that Matt Mayoko is a total homer. I would say a bit of a homer, but you could say, he works for the organization at some point. If he's saying that, we should all worry. Yeah, that's true. AJB talking about Grant Rant is great. He is a popular dude. That is for damn sure. I love working with him. Ken talking about, I listen to Grant, Jesse, Amin, Rombo, Rob, and also Chapman. They're great and provide insights and checks and balances. Yes, get out there and experience all that 49ers YouTube has to offer. Just make sure that you're back here hitting the like and subscribe button, because this channel is good 49ers content with your man, Rob Shue. Richard coming back in, completing the earlier comment. Some say not to start a rookie. I don't know. Bills, Cards, Chargers. Yeah, look at each individual circumstance. Sometimes it works out. You got to be able to judge each one on their own merits. That is for sure. Todd Keese, what's up, Todd? How you doing, man? Ellis coming back in, dropping facts. Okay, here we go. Rob Shue, I am an overly optimistic fan. You and me both, Ellis. And I have digressed a lot this season. And I still believe the 49ers can make the playoffs. The 49ers will start winning. Put your bets in now. Yes! That is a mic drop moment for me. I apologize if my audio clipped at that point because I yelled so much. I hope that I got far enough away from my mic in order not to clip your audio. A little bit of voice breaking there. That's humiliating, like a young teenage boy there going through puberty. No, I'm excited, and that's why my voice is fluctuating as it did. Very excited at that optimism, Ellis. I bet you could get some pretty good odds right now on the 49ers making a run. Lay them bets. I'm not taking my expectations to that level, but my hopes are sky high. No doubt. JT, Steve Young seems to be unhappy with the way Niners are being run. That speaks for a lot of us. Any chance he could play an official role next year? I think when you're looking for official roles, it's time to look to the most successful organizations looking for highly qualified candidates. I know the biggest thing right now is bringing in fresh new faces, or I love the idea of having Steve Young involved in some way with the organization, because I think the 49ers for years did such a poor job of bringing in an alumni that is the best in the frickin' league. Like, other teams that have great dynasties, some of them, those dynasties are long gone, and some of those alumnus have unfortunately died off of old age. The Niners were great in the 80s. Almost all their dudes are still around. Bring those guys in. Even if it's not an official role, bring them in. So, JT, I like it, but I don't know that I see him in an official role. I'd rather honestly have somebody come in with experience. I would love for Steve Young to come in on a regular basis and give motivational speeches and to get involved with the locker room more, for sure. All right, Jamie Bryant coming in. I've been diehard fan since 86, 49er for life. You and me both. I think 86 was my year I'd officially peg as joining the 49er faithful, because that was the first year I attended my very first football game with my dad. I've been faithful ever since. Chester says, that's right, Jamie. That's right. G. Reyes coming in. Yeah, DB coach if they screw up. If it's a major embarrassing blowout, it could be Lynch. Ooh. I don't know. I don't know about that. It could be. It could be, because things have been ugly. And if it's a really embarrassing loss, like Jed only has so many of those embarrassing losses in him before the core of Jed comes out, which is, wanting to angry tweet about it and let us know that what we're seeing on the field is completely unacceptable, and he will fix it again. No, I hope he doesn't. General Meow is yelling at us. Kyle is the problem. I think Kyle is struggling wildly right now. No question about it. I like what I'm seeing from him in the press conferences as he's getting beat down, though. As he's gaining humility, I like that. I think he could get back to a point where he's just grinding, simplify, shrink it down, get back to basics. That's my hope for Kyle. I don't think it's too late, but I understand those of you fans that believe it is. General Meow comes back in later and says, we need to fire Kyle Shanahan now. And he's yelling it. I mean, I get it. I get the emotion. JT, the blindly faithful get mad at anyone who uses logic over emotion. Yeah, I don't get that. Like, I get being passionate about the team. I'm freaking passionate about the team. If you don't think passion's oozing out of my pores, I need to do a better job of communicating. I believe that my faithful nature shows through even when I'm angry. I think that's where the anger comes from, is my previous expectations for this team. All right, we getting close to the end here. G-Rez, we appreciate you just as you are, Rob. Keep up the good work. I appreciate that for sure. For sure. All right, we are getting close to the end. Looking for the comments. Here we go. Still wanting to fire Kyle. Choking. Yes, indeed. New subscriber here. Javier, what's up, man? I like new subscribers. Yes, indeed. All right, here we go. Luke, on the bright side, our 2022 first round pick will be in the top. Oh, wait a minute. We don't have a top 2022 pick. Thanks for taking us down a dark hole there, Luke. I appreciate it. No, it's true. The worse we do this year, the worse it looks for John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan with what they gave up to move up in being so confident that we would be relevant this year. You wouldn't have given up as many first-round picks if you thought they were going to be top 10 picks. We need to turn this thing around just for that simple fact. Chester talking about we have to be right about how Trey is handled. A lot was given up for him. No question. Chester, the top priority going forward has to be Trey Lance and making sure that we do not damage the poor rookie's confidence in the way that we did with Jimmy Garoppolo. AJB coming back in. Kyle didn't want Cat because he didn't want to draw up two offenses. It's true. He can barely script 15 plays. He does seem to be struggling at the minute for sure. For sure. All right, here we go. A new one, the regular Ryan. What's up, regular Ryan? Regular Ryan, jump on in here. I love it. Niners need some medical analytics guys or something to help with this injury issue. Can't understand how this team is constantly injured. It feels almost like a curse, like if I'm honest with myself. But I do think this year hasn't been as bad as 2020. Not just I think. It has not been as bad as 2020. 2020 was ridiculous. Again, 160 some games missed to injury. That is 10 players missing a full 16-game season. That is like your entire offense missing the entire 16-game season. Now I realize plenty of those players were backups. So it's not your starting 10 players that you lost. But it was crazy. This year, especially when you look at the guys who went down, Verrett and Mostert, I love them. Love them as players. Really, so talented when they can stay healthy. I just don't think it was a solid plan to go in with both of them scripted to be your first option at running back and your first option at defensive back without really solid plans in place behind them. I get that they went out far earlier. Game one. You had to expect they'd make it through 8, 9 games in the season at least? Like when you look at their trends, yeah, they've missed games in most of their seasons, but it's not the entire season. Bad luck. We replaced the entire medical training staff in 2018. If it continues, and I don't think it has this year, I think it's blown out of proportion because we did re-sign a couple of guys that unfortunately sort of carry that injury-prone nature to them, have been through enough major injuries to where their bodies may be breaking down in some respects. I'm not going to speak definitively there, but you would think that if you take those out of the equation, it's not quite as bad when you look at the rest of the league. The NFL is a violent sport. No question about it. All right, JT says, General, I don't know who you are, but you're wise. I think JT wants to see Kyle fired. I think a lot of people do. G. Reyes talking about, would love to see Steve Young get a chunk of ownership and a hand in running the Niners. That I could get behind. Steve is a very intelligent individual, and I don't mind his voice being in the room, and ownership would be a great spot to do that. Luke coming in, I was a 49ers fan through the Joe Thomas decimated late 1970s. The current bad team looks fantastic by comparison. It's all relative, isn't it, Luke? If we can point to something else and say, well, this isn't that bad. We've been through worse. It is all relative. For those fans that are just going through their first 20 years of 49ers fandom, oof, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you didn't get to experience those epic teams of the 80s and 90s. I'm sorry you missed that. I'm sorry for the product you've seen on the field for the most part, with some glimmers of hope for the most part. General Meow coming back in. When he's not talking about Kyle, he doesn't yell at us. JT watched Niners since 1969, Dick Nolan, John Brody era. Love it. Love it, General Meow. Frickin' love it. Jamie Bryant coming in, Staley, Rice, and Young. 49er old heads talking to the youth of our team, trying to help, and their play on the field shows they're not listening. Unfortunately, I can't dispute that. It doesn't seem like the voices, wherever they're coming from, have had the intended effect to this point. Ellis calling out, we're at like 49 likes right now. That's big time. Big time, Ellis. It's because of you all pumping up the likes. I like it. I like it. I'd like it myself if I could right now. I can't, but I would. G. Reyes, Kyle ain't going anywhere. Not this season, at least. I agree with that. I think he's got another season under his belt, almost regardless of what happens. Don't get me wrong. The wheels could come off of this thing badly. And then I think Jed will react, as you might predict. But I think that at the end of this year, it sets up for me right now with how it's playing out as John Lynch as a scapegoat. There are so many misses in acquisitions, trades, free agent signings, draft misses. The DeForest Buckner trade alone could have cost some general managers their job in this league. The DeForest Buckner move alone. So I see it setting up as John Lynch getting the axe if our woes continue. And then Kyle Shanahan getting one more year, a chance. You have to hope he can develop the rookie, because if you let Kyle, if you say that he ruined Trey's rookie year, and now you trust Jed to hire a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, what if they ruin Trey's second year? And now you're on to the third offensive coordinator, third head coach in the third. I mean, Jed got 2 bad hires before he hit on Kyle, and some of you may not feel warm about that signing now, but most of us, I think, were thrilled at the time. But if you had 2 more strikeouts, that's the first 3 years of Lance's rookie contract and the first 3 years of his career flushed down the toilet. You got to hope Kyle can turn this around. Ken coming back in. Yesterday when I watched Thursday Night Football, the Packers looked like the 2019 Niners playing in the green and yellow jersey. Matt LaFleur stepped up and A-Rod just handed the ball in play action. Sound familiar? Yes. And it was glorious. I loved watching that. I loved watching Aaron Jones just demolish people. They couldn't stop him. And yet, 2nd and goal from the half-yard line, LaFleur was like, Kyle Shanahan, this one's for you. We're throwing it 3 times in a row. Just crazy. Just crazy. I mean, I guess it wasn't really throwing it. Aaron took it in on the keeper end around, but I don't think that was a design play. I think he was attempting to throw it. Luke coming back in. My parents met each other on a blind date 49ers game in the early 1950s. That might be the best origin story of a marriage I've ever heard. Blind date at the Niners game. People were partying the right way in the 50s. Ellis with the positivity. Let's go Niners. Ooh, LZK talking about getting rid of George Kittle. Calling him George Kettle. George Kettlebell. No, I can't get behind it at this point in time. He's too much of a core component to this offense. And when he's healthy, is dominant. EMA coming in. I thought so. It's usually last. Oh, this was in response earlier, but I see another EMA, so I'll go straight to that. What's up? All right. Do you think drafting Tristan Wirfs instead of Kinlaw would have been better since he's came into the league with this issue and we had to give up 2 picks and a big contract for Trent Williams? Yeah, hindsight's 2020, no doubt, but it sure looks like we shouldn't have traded that pick to Tampa Bay and that we should have taken Wirfs. I mean, even if you say trade McGlinchey away and still sign Trent, like you could have the most dominant bookends in the league if you had Trent and Wirfs. And then by the time you got to the end of Trent's contract, you'd be at the end of Wirfs' rookie contract. I think that would have worked out. I am all for investments in the D and the O line. No problem. Oh, Richard calling out. I want to like this video, but I don't want to be the one to move it beyond 49 likes. If we get stuck at 49 likes on every video, I'm fine with that. Very, very fine with that. Richard coming in from 49 Shoe with the radio voice. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Start your engines. Yes, I try. I don't have a gorgeous head of hair to work with unless you count this head of hair down here on the bottom side of my face. But I got to have something I can hang my hat on, and it's the voice. All right, the regular Ryan coming back in. Thanks, Rob. You got it. It's sad that we'll never see the starting players all at the same time, considering how much talent is on this roster. It's frustrating, man. Very frustrating, because you feel like if we could get them all on the field for an entire season, that 2019 would almost be an inevitable outcome, right? That you would find yourself back competing for a Super Bowl. But we can't. Can't seem to keep guys healthy. It's a violent sport, no question, but our roster seems to be built of players that tend to get a bit more injured than the rest of the league. Ellis back in. I'd take the Shanahan era over the Singletary era. Those are facts. For those of you upset with Kyle, remember, you don't want to say don't get rid of someone because you can't find a good replacement. But, I mean, that's a valid argument. It's a consideration. JT back in. Any reason you don't bring on those players from the 80s to interview here? No reason. I absolutely will. Don't get me wrong. I will be bringing in players to interview. That's my plan. Next week on my Monday shows are my interview shows. So Monday evenings, generally between 4 and 6 for start time, depending on the availability of my guest. To this point, we've had Jack Hammer of the Santa Rosa Press Democrat, Jesse Naylor of Last Second Sports, and So Real Sunil of So Real Sports. And so we will, in fact, be branching out. Jordan Elliott for Niners Wire is going to be here next week. Contributor for, I think it's Niners Nation. Splash Cousins on Twitter. If you don't follow him, he's such a great follow on Twitter because it's not the doom and gloom that you may find on 49er Twitter. There's a lot of panic, and probably for good reason, on 49er Twitter. Yes. Jamie coming back in for real. 80s, 90s was a wild ride. Yes, it was. Tim Martin says, I'd love to see a young Montana Rice ownership. Yes, I would. And AJB agreeing, yeah, Singletary was, in fact, rough. Chester pointing out Kyle and him have the same winning percentage. Ouch. G. Reyes talking about if things go bad, Trey's career could mirror Alex's. Oh, that would be a freaking shame. Ellis, I appreciate it. Hit the like button. Jamie back in, especially 94 or 95. We played Dallas in the NFC Championship game. I was there. My uncle got us flipped over his coffee table to me to get out. I said, I can't. Your girls suck. You're what? Cowgirls? Ooh, man, it's feisty in that family, Jamie. You against your uncle? Is that how I'm reading it? That there was a coffee table flipped in the household with the game going on between the Niners and the Cowboys? Goodness gracious, tempers were flaring in the 90s. Chester coming back in. Trey is way more talented than Alex. I don't know how Alex was the number one pick. Yeah, hindsight, Alex Smith over, as much as I love Alex Smith over Aaron Rodgers. Probably not the right call there. EMA talking about, thanks, Rob. No problem, EMA. And we also had to give up a third and a fourth for Trent as well. That's true. We did give up a lot to bring in Trent. No problem. Gerson Perez coming in. Hey, Rob, rough year so far. Yes, it has been. Let's hope that Trey's time is soon, like Sunday afternoon. Here's what I want to see, because earlier in the show, in case you missed it, I said I think it's unfair to throw in Trey to start on Sunday against Chicago. I don't think it's fair to the rookie. He needs to be 1,000% healthy when he goes back in, and he needs to have a full week of practice. I want Trey to have the best chance to succeed. I do not want his confidence damaged any further than it has been by the poor handling to this point. So my stance is that this weekend, we got to get back to as many or more snaps than he got in week one and build from there. I don't want to see this 10 snaps this week and then 2 snaps next week or 0 snaps next week. No. I want to see 10 snaps this week, and I want to see 12 snaps the week after that. And I want to continue that so long as Trey is showing progress and building confidence. And then eventually it will be clear to switch to Jimmy. And I'm not opposed to shipping Jimmy out before the trade deadline if, in fact, you can find a trade partner. I just don't know that that's possible. Ken coming back in. Bill Walsh is a better coach than Bill Belichick. I agree with that statement wholeheartedly. You may get a lot of flack from modern day fans, but I think those of us that are aware of Bill Walsh creating the West Coast offense, I think we know who's the better coach. Kyle should admire the late Bill Walsh rather than Belichick. I agree with that too. Should read the legendary Lowell Cohn's book on Walsh. Yes, Lowell went to Stanford. Walsh coached at Stanford. Great book. Anything on Bill Walsh, Kyle should be into, 100%. Luke coming in. Many here in the North Bay think Levi's Stadium is a monument to greed that looks like a Holiday Inn meets Erector set. We need a stadium in the city. I agree with that. As someone who grew up on Candlestick Point, parking in the little hood right behind the stadium for free and walking to the stadium because I was a cheap teenager and guy in my early 20s, didn't have the cash to spend, had the ticket, couldn't afford the parking, so I'd park on the streets. I at one time had a group of kids that were themselves some entrepreneurs come up and let me know that it wasn't free to park on the side of the street, that I'd need to pay them $10. And I said, this is public parking. They said, yeah, but we can slash your tires when you leave. And it was a fair point. They could, in fact, slash my tires as soon as I was out of eye distance, right? What could I do? I had to move my car. I gave them credit. Entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurial spirit. Chester coming in. Trey looked like he was never hurt. He is not even on the injury report today. He ready to go if needed. I'm fired up for that. Absolutely fired up about that. I need to see some Trey. Even if it's just a couple of exciting plays, I need that fire, baby. Need to see it. AJB, agreement. That stadium is awful. Yeah, I got the brick, right? I showed you the brick earlier. Here we go. We'll show it again. Oh, you can't. Now you can't see it because it's too dark over. Oh, wait. I got my. Here we go. You can see the brick, and that is there in Levi's Stadium. And I pay homage to it every time I'm there. I take a picture by it. I've got a lot of pictures of my wife and I next to our brick. I will be happy when that brick is destroyed because it will mean that Levi's Stadium is torn down and hopefully the next stadium is built in the city. Because when you go to the Giant Stadium that's there, it's phenomenal. Ellis is with us. I agree on the stadium comment. No question. JT calling out. He believes that the front office is not telling the truth to us about injuries. I don't know. I feel like that's a league-wide issue that they fudge injuries a little bit. AJB talking about a Niner fan in SoCal. I lived in SoCal for a little bit. Shout out Costa Mesa, Santa Ana, Orange County. SoFi is better than Levi. SoFi looks magnificent. I got to give it to him. Like, So disappointed that they went with artificial turf. That to me is just a joke. Dude, it's a partially outdoor stadium that gets sunlight. You could do the Arizona Cardinal thing where you slide the field in and out. Get natural grass. Get natural freaking grass. Come on. Enough knee injuries to turf. That's unacceptable in my mind. These cheap ass owners. Unbelievable. General Meow coming back in. Bill Walsh tree of coaches. Seifert, Holmgren, Shanahan, all Super Bowl champs. Look at Belichick's tree. All losers. Yeah, Bill Walsh is known for, like, there's video of him coaching players. And that video was created at Bill Walsh's request because, get this, he wanted his successors to be able to have a set of film to go back and watch to know how to be the head coach when they got their opportunity. So that Holmgren had a series of videos that Bill had filmed at practices. He could watch what Bill did and use that to learn and grow himself. Bill, phenomenal teacher. Bill Walsh, goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. Richard calling out Levi. You shouldn't take into account the sun when buying tickets. You shouldn't have to, but at Levi's, you sure as hell should. Because if you park yourself on that eastern side in the sun, man, I got free tickets to like whatever that fanciest place is where you can go beneath the frickin' stadium and get all you can eat food. It's 50-yard line, like epic seats. I've only had better seats once in my life. Those were phenomenal, but I baked. Like, it was the Cowboys game. I don't remember when, 2018 maybe. I baked in the stands, and it was an atrocious game. That was unpleasant. I can't believe people pay the money that they do to sit on that side early in the season. Later in the year, it's okay. G. Reyes coming in, LOL. We used to get there early and park in one of the back church parking lots. It was always super safe. I'm telling you, back in the day, parking around Candlestick. Good vibes. Gabriel 2000, what's up? How you doing? Ken coming back in. I felt that QB coach will be fired. I felt that the QB coach will be fired should Niners lose this weekend. Interesting. Rich Scangrello. Interesting call out. Replace him with Jeff Garcia, as he will be able to groom Trey to be able to play total QB out of the pocket and run plays. That's an interesting one. I just don't know what experience Garcia brings to it other than his own. I'm optimistic about that one and would be open to it. I'd rather see someone come out of a high caliber organization that has a proven track record. That would be exciting, but I'd rather see the track record personally. I'd be excited by the pick though. Jamie coming back in. We should have stayed in San Francisco. They could have found space. We the Santa Clara Niners now. Unfortunately, that is true. Luke talking about slept 3 freezing nights in a VW Bug in Candlestick parking lot for 1981 playoff tickets versus the New York Giants. The catch game versus Dallas was the following weekend. Love it. What you can't see up in this corner here, that is a black and white photo of Candlestick Park in the fog, which to me is just epic. And right over here is a signed version of Dwight Clark's The Catch. Right there. Respect your history. Damn it. Chester talking about the field turf is horrible. I saw a video on how dangerous it is. It's crazy to me. Pony up the money, NFL owners. Have real grass. Doesn't seem far-fetched. Gabriel 2000 says, damn, that's dope, Rob. Didn't know Bill made video for successor. Yeah, look that up. I don't think I'm BSing at all there. I believe it was at the request of Bill. You can see some of that film is still out there in the vault. And he did it for those up-and-coming coaches. The regular Ryan talking about, I roasted in the sun at Levi's in December. In December. Oh, it's terrible. And it's underneath the flight path of San Jose Airport. So you have planes passing overhead, and they can't put a roof on it because it is in the flight path. They can't go any higher. They are literally, the permits are not allowed. Not allowed. Jamie coming in nice. Hell yeah, 49er history. You gotta appreciate your history. You gotta AJB coming in, Santa Clara 49ers of San Francisco. That's a good, it's catchy. It's very short and succinct title for our 49ers. All right, Ellis, talking about thank you for the great energy and insight. I'm a bigger fan after this stream. Keep it coming. That's the comment to end it on, folks. There's 40-something of you that stuck around this entire time. I am pleased as punch, and that's the worst saying I have used on this broadcast. I am thrilled to have you in here with me. I'm trying to pump myself back up because, like I said, I'm changing the expectations, but I ain't changing the hope. My hope is sky high for this 49ers team because the talent is there. We got to remain faithful. We got to go into this weekend and bring it. We got to make sure that we, as the faithful, have our game at the top of its level, at the highest possible point. We need the energy. People are saying, thank you. Great show. Peace. Clapping hands. You the man, Rob. Stay groovy and go Niners. Great content. Yes, indeed. I love you all for being a part of this. I feel like we built this little community here. Thank you for joining me tonight. We'll try and get a pump-up video coming in before the game. And as long as I've got the heart to do it, a breakdown after the game on Sunday. You can follow me at The Left Shoe on Twitter. And I'll tell you when I'm going live. Or hit the subscribe button and hit that notifications because every now and then I will go live with a little bit of notice like I did today. I appreciate all of you coming in and enjoy your weekend. Go Niners.